You may have noticed that even professional politicians detected how the NRA was in lockstep with the terrible incident at Uvalde Elementary School. And what this tells you is that there's ruthlessness bordering on a fascist intimidation, targeting aware, educated individuals. And some people have said that, for example, it comes out of Black Lives Matters. Others have called attention to the um, protest of kneeling or not coming out to salute the flag at baseball and football games. What I want to do is, a lot of things don't get through the media, and nobody wants to see the end of the world, which were Prince Charming, Joe Biden is courting, as well as the Knight of Resignation in Russia, Mr. Vladimir Putin. And people are polarized. If you see any desire for peace, you're negotiating and appeasing. And I want to talk to you a little bit about not just the pedagogy behind people who are Russian experts who have been warning this could happen for a long time. The father of domino theory, George Kennan, said it was reckless and dangerous and foolish to keep expanding NATO after we promised not to. It's cold blooded lying to the Russians. Okay, so the Western intelligentsia, although it's unsafe in the Red Scare revival mentality that's being courted, is also quite safe in terms of the brackets of the law. Noam Chomsky pointed out that you can go to the National Security Archives, do a search for NATO expansion, and you will find the promise that was made by James Baker and George Bush to Gorbachev not to expand NATO eastward, which was um, lied about and then undone by Bill Clinton. So the provocation has been established. You can read about Maidan, Donbass, the Orange Revolution, and have questions. It's legal. I mean, it doesn't mean that these punishers from the Frenches won't bother you or seek to ruin your life. I mean, if you want to see what Hitler Reagan was capable of, take a look at my blog. But what I want to do with this talk is a little different from explaining that. What I want to do instead is explain who I believe we're dealing with Vladimir Putin and the culture that has Navalny locked up. It begins in Czechoslovakia after the wall came down and Czech Republic was freed. A man named Ivan Svitak came to the United States. He had predated Václav Havel, the famous Nobel laureate of the Czech resistance. He was offered a chance to leave Czech Republic prison, provided that he leave the country. Similar to Navalny's insistence to come back, Václav Havel refused, and he suffered. Ivan Svitak came to California to teach in a California school. During Prague Spring, he was one of the heroes of the uprising against the Soviets, which was said to have been crushed by Soviet tanks. And he said, all those years that the conservatives supported me, I guess they didn't bother to read me. Because when I came to try to talk about Marxism in a California school, it's like trying to tell people about Galileo in the medieval era when they were part of the Catholic Church. Yeah, it was the sun revolves around the earth stuff. So if this was a hero of Prague Spring talking. Now, if you go back to Václav Havel's imprisonment, you find a parliamentarian who tried to persuade people in Czechoslovakia not to demonize the people who were going along with the system because they were trapped too. In one very famous play, he had a petition and two men. One man called the other man who had the petition to come over. The man with the petition says, why do you want to see me? And he said, because one of our third guy who we both respect is locked up. And the man with the petition said, well, that's good. I wanted to see you too because I have a petition to free him. Please sign it. The man says, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm in the party. I will get in too much trouble. I'll lose my job. My family will be harassed. And they argue back and forth. Now, if Havel wanted to demonize this party member, he could have. He could have said, oh, that's you. Hey, you're a traitor. You know, the old song and dance. But he doesn't. It turns out that the compromises that this party member made behind the scenes is what gets the fellow freed. So Havel's message was, please do anything you possibly can to make this situation more humane and more reasonable. And Putin put up a big sign, I'm a reasonable, humane human being. You can talk to me. It's in Oliver Stone's interviews. It's in his Munich 2007 speech. It's in most of the things that he's cooperated with the news press conferences, and one after another. Noam Chomsky points out he gets hit with these ideological barrages. He just fields them. He does his level best. Yet the point is the Soviet Union eventually let go of Czech Republic. It let go of Glasnost. That's the reason why I felt surely people will embrace Russia. They will celebrate. We never wanted this, they would say, and they didn't. There was all kinds of weird animosity and continued stereotyping and demonization. And it was like what Ivan Svitek. Now you'll say, oh, you're double crossing Navalny to draw a comparison between Vladimir Putin and Ivan Svitek. I'm not doing anything of the kind. I'm saying that Navalny is in the position of being an intellectual in a situation where it has been proven that the people in power in Russia can be reasoned with to let go of some of their authoritarian tendencies if the fear and hatred is removed from the environment around them. And it's very sad to me that we keep lapsing back into the old tapes about European dictators lie and invade. It's an old school of tapes without ever bringing up as though nobody knows anything about it. The Samizdat movement, the success of the Velvet Revolution, the Charter 77 movement in Czechoslovakia. Those were all the things that George Kennan and his people should have been saying to Clinton. Clinton, don't betray Charter 77's achievement by lying to Russia. When I was a child, I saw the anti-ballistic missile treaty negotiated under Nixon when my mother took me to the United Nations. And here we just said, no, we're taking our names off the treaty. We're abrogating the treaty. And then, but it's not about Russia. What do you mean? We put all of the fancy new stuff in Europe. Who is it? And Vladimir Putin says, saying that's about North Korea is like saying, reaching for your left ear with your right hand. It doesn't make any sense. And how are the people who believed what Václav Havel was selling, which was that if you let go of us, we're going to embrace you. And say that there's no blame in the matter. I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm trying to court. But don't bully me with selling the idea that Russia wasn't pushed into a corner, because they obviously were. And don't bully me with the facts are clear about how I feel about this invasion. They're perfectly clear. I drew the line at this invasion, but I was concerned about Donbass. And I remain convinced that there was double dealings from the West, and that the West is just psychologically unequipped to look at the history and ability of the enterprise that Glasnost really tried to be. And we need another uh, epoch or era of intellectual engagement that makes clear that we're being too stubborn in our presumption of evil. That's what I couldn't get over. It was in Montana, and they took down the Berlin Wall, and John Tower was saving the ever more menacing Soviet Union. What's he talking about? They just freed Havel, took down the Berlin Wall. Solzhenitsyn is going home. What in the world? What the dickens is going on? It's the strangest thing in the world, you know. And paradoxically, I feel like, you know, my issue puts me at odds with all sides. So it serves both of them side to, you know, create a parameter where you have to choose sides between seemingly hostile authorities. And that's why I call cahooters. That's why I tried to explain Ouspensky Circle, because there's some other things going on in our history books that aren't going to be excised. But, you know, as I say, you know, it's just American Library Association, library clerk speaking. You know, I read things. I don't make unfounded accusations. I look at what's happening and try to figure out if there's reasonable due process that could be brought to light in an effort to bring about some sort of sincerity in review of crimes that are too big to just sit and play dumb about all the time. You know, but the bottom line is the way I see it is that American historians, Bill Clinton knew Václav Havel. Obama was supposedly this intellectual giant, and yet he couldn't see that Glasnost and the Velvet Revolution went hand in hand and do something to, you know, be reasonable with Putin. I don't get it. You know, some of this was a result of opportunism when it came to Muslims. You know, I don't think we made a wise decision in continuing with people who would look at Ivan Svatak and say, "Oh, one of them after all." Ivan Svatak was a beautiful, brilliant professor, a man who we supported because there was reason to support him. It's strange. It's but I'll go on now. I'm just minding my manners and the best I can about it.